Alrighty, guys, get ready to roll here. Let me know with some comments there if you can hear me clearly. If there's any issues, for any reason you can't hear me, I'm going to hop in here and open up the chat. How's everybody doing tonight? Alrighty. So everything sounds good? Looks good? Let me try to get Junior in the shot here. If anybody knows, that is John Lund Jr. with 4R200 eyeballs. It's one of my favorite Photoshop jobs ever. I want to thank John Nardi for that photo. I'm going to wait a few more seconds here to get rolling. In fact, let me grab one thing. I'll be right back. All right, we are back. Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. This is episode number 2 of our live stream. Last week was a lot of fun. Went over a lot of cool stuff, and got to get some information out of everybody. Some of the new products. We had some updates on our harnesses and so forth. We have some more product updates and some more updates on the 3-valve harnesses in particular. And we're going to go over that here in a second. We're going to introduce you to some new items, no matter how small they are. They're important. And actually do some public service announcements. Now, those PSAs are designed for guys who are doing Coyote swaps, and they're kind of based on the questions we get on a regular basis. And recently, we've been getting a lot of Gen 3 F-150 10R80 Gen 3 F-150 Coyote swap questions as far as control packs and so forth. And as a reminder, to date, nothing has been developed yet for that engine. If you're going to purchase one of those engines, keep that in mind, because you may not have anything to control it, at least until we get stuff figured out. We are going to try to work with somebody, a good customer of ours and dealer, which is Texas Speed Lab Performance, Gumby Saunders. He's got a Gen 3 truck, 10R80 out there by him, and we're gonna try to work some things out with a Ford Race control pack on that truck, and we'll keep everybody updated as far as any potential updates and knowledge that we gain from that, to see if we can get to work like we did with the Gen 2 stuff. The problem is Gen 3 control packs are on back order till like middle of April from Ford Racing, so hoping that date sticks. It's been pushed back once already, maybe twice. Hopefully we get the control packs we're waiting on and we can start that development. Another PSA, if you're doing a speed drive installation with our low profile power steering bracket, and so everybody knows we have 2 power steering brackets that are available in our speed drives, standard and low profile. Standard is the original power steering bracket we've had from day one. It sits out a little bit further than the low profile one that we developed for older cars with different chassis and stuff like a Detroit Speed Aluma frame. It tucks the power steering pump a little bit further in, up to about 1 inch. And we have fittings to help that too. In those kits, you get this thing. Now it looks like a dog tag or a keychain. Superplex, Super LX from Toronto. Thanks for joining us. But this is a clocking tool. It's in the instructions. Now the instructions are digital now. They don't come with a kit, so a lot of guys forget about this. They just kind of toss off to the side, think it's a keychain or some cool little trinket we give you. But you need this, and you need to follow the instructions that you find online to make sure your tensioner doesn't collide with your power steering pump. And if you don't do that, then you get an email back from me when you say, hey, what the hell's going on? And I send you the screenshot of this and you go, oh, yeah, I remember that. Mine was green, mine was red, it doesn't matter. Use this tool, drill that hole out, and you'll be fine. Another new product that we've come out with, we actually had this for a little bit, and we just released it recently. For Fox body guys, New Edge guys, SN95 guys, when you're doing a Coyote swap, you have a throttle cable hole in the firewall that you're going to have to address, and no one really makes a cover piece for it. We got you covered with this little 3D printed plastic cover. You can reuse the factory bolts to hold, cover it up. The thing's only $5. Really cheap, easy solution to a Coyote swap problem that Fox bodies have. Fox bodies, SN95s, and New Edge cars. So look at that on our website. We have that under some of our engine dress-up stuff and components and so forth. We have and are working on our Edelbrock 2650 speed drive video. I shot that today and should have it edited and released by either tomorrow or Friday. So look for that to come out. If you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel and don't have that notification button set to all, you may miss that video when it comes out with some of the information we release in there. Not to worry, you can watch it. It'll be on our playlist of all of our product videos. It'll be on the product listing itself as well. And if you have any comments or questions about that, we'll answer them today. Or you can post them up in that video. Pitino Performance, thanks for coming by the shop today. I think I saw you at the front counter there. Thanks for coming by and always supporting us as well, man. So everybody's looking good. Everybody can hear me clearly. Good deal. Harnesses. I keep getting questions about this 3-valve harness. We are working on it. I think we got 2 of them done now. One of them is going to be for the production run. That's probably going to be used to be sent out. And then we got a few more people we're going to make in 4 as test mules. One of the byproducts of those harnesses is all of this nonsense. So this is kind of what happens to that harness when we go to make it, because we start with some factory stuff right now. We're clocking about 20 plus hours per harness. That's why we have to manufacture them, because we'd never be able to keep up with production, and you would not like the cost of it if we released it with that kind of labor built into it. So we are working on it. This is a byproduct of, I think, the 3rd one or the 2nd one. We'll hopefully get some manufacturing done here soon enough and be able to get it. Yes, it is spaghetti. I wish we could recycle that stuff. We kind of keep it in a box, and every once in a while we need a wire with a certain color code to it or a pin. We'll reach in there and grab one out, but that's about as only it's good for. But yeah, pigeon's nest, not a bad name for it. We definitely want to get that harness out there. I think it's going to be really beneficial to a lot of guys. I think the S197, like we stated before, is probably going to be the easiest car to swap. JL, thank you for recognizing that. We do make stuff that makes this swap a lot easier and really helps the Coyote swap community, whatever it is, or group, to get these things done. That harness, I think, is going to be really great for the S197 guys, 05 to 09. I think it's going to be a real dynamite car to Coyote swap. On the backside, I have an 07 Expedition. And I really hope that some of the stuff that we do in that harness may correlate to the trucks from that era as well. There's a small chance, and we haven't dug all the way into it, that harness may be something that can also apply to guys with F-150s with 3 valves, Expeditions with 3 valves, that would like to benefit from putting a Coyote motor in there, whether it be for performance, daily driving, or towing in particular. I tow with my Expedition, and it's got a 3 valve in it with 180,000 miles on it. It ain't pretty, and that's just an open trailer and my coupe on there that has the Coyote swap in it. So it would be kind of cool to have the matching pair of swaps, and then I wouldn't have to save up and spend a bunch of money to get an EcoBoost Expedition as well. So look for that as well, because if we can get that figured out, there's gonna be a lot of guys doing swaps on trucks. And again, all the same products apply. You're gonna have your speed drive, you doing your power steering and AC, and our harness helping you get the Gen 1 stuff, potentially Gen 2 as well, worked out in that, and getting the gauges and the AC and the lights and everything to work. So Edelbrock 2650 kits and superchargers are now available on our website. Make sure you hop on there and take a look at it. If you're looking at a blower for a Coyote swap, it's the latest blower that's kind of put together with Coyote swap in mind. We got a full array of products to get that done, including an intake tube kit that we had to put together because the tuner kits from Edelbrock do not come with the pipe between the mass airflow housing and the throttle body. Unfortunately, they don't include that, so now we got a setup for that as well. We got you covered on all the power steering stuff. We got the different blower options. We got 8 rib and 6 rib options. All that stuff will be in the video that will come out either tomorrow or Friday. So make sure you check that out and spread the word. Even if you're not looking at a blower, maybe you know somebody who is. Here's a great option for them. We got a car lined up. I don't know if you guys have seen the car. It's a yellow New Edge that was featured a couple times. We did a Coyote swap on it. Alex had it on his channel. That car has a Gen 2 motor in it. It's a stick car, and that car is going to be getting that Edelbrock blower that we've used for mock-up. It's also going to be getting a T56 transmission, so that's going to be an awesome New Edge swap. We recently used that car for our Dakota Digital gauge installation video, and a lot of the tech that's come out on those gauges was sourced on that vehicle. I think it was the first one to get it, and we're also going to be putting this Edelbrock 2650 on there, so it's going to be a screamer, beautiful car. The car's owned by a gentleman by the name of Denny. He's here local to us in St. Lucie, and he's a great customer of ours. We really appreciate his support. But he is ready to go. We got to figure out some things here in the next week on pricing for him, get things ordered up, and get him in the shop to go ahead and do that. And we'll do a video on the installation once we do that. Get some pictures out too. But the topic of tonight, because it's come to my attention a little bit, is there's some pretty cool swaps going on out there that don't have anything to do with Ford. They are kind of crazy, weird swaps. Guys putting Coyote engines in Chevrolet vehicles. 67 Firebird was the one I was chatting with earlier today. I got a guys doing one at a Grand National. We've had guys use our products to put Coyote engines in airboats. There is, in this world, a Roush supercharged Gen 1, I believe, airboat, speedboats, lake boats. There was a gentleman that used to work for Lund Racing. His name was Greg. He had a twin turbo, a fluid manifold, twin turbo, Coyote carbon fiber hull lake speedboat, which was crazy. So I wanted to see what everyone's opinion on it is on it, because we're talking about it today. And if you look back at all the Ford engines, the VW Bug, which Patino Performance just mentioned there. Another crazy swap, a C10 pickup with a Ford engine. Now, the only other engine I can think of from Ford that ever had that much of a draw to do something like that was like the flathead V8. I mean, a 302 Windsor really was never the engine to go to, considering you had a small block Chevy option or something like that. So to see a Coyote engine being used in those applications, even if it's just for shock value, the fact that it still performs and does well, and it's no slouch in those cars. There it is, the 67 Firebird belongs to Bondo Bird. There he is. The fact that those engines are even an option to those guys and they're performing well, that's a big thing. I mean, it's not just a shock deal where you just want to put an engine in there just to get looks and have people look at you. It is a big leap for Ford crate engines, if you bleed blue like I do, to know that guys are doing those swaps and getting them in there. So, and you see them in that Roadrunner as well, that Whipple supercharged Roadrunner. And is that something that we're going to see more of? I think so. As those engines gain more popularity and more accessibility, more products, and more builders know about them and are used to them. I think you're going to see more guys stretching the legs of the Coyote and doing crazy, crazy builds, but seeing them in boats. Haven't seen an airplane yet, although I wouldn't put it past anybody to try to do it. That's a pretty cool thing to see as far as guys in the Coyote swap community kind of spreading their wings and putting them in all sorts of cars. A Roadrunner, to me, I mean, the Chrysler guys have got to be just doing backflips seeing that happen. But, I mean, if you want a reliable, easy to get, a lot of tuning support engine to put in there that is supercharged, that looks good, makes 600-700 horsepower and you can start it up at any time, why not? You know, as long as you can make it fit, go for it. That VW Bug, I mean, to wedge that engine in there, I mean, there's been plenty of bug swaps, guys doing big block Chevys and Fords and all sorts of weird engines and so forth. But a Coyote is kind of an awkward engine to try to put in there with how wide the cylinder head is and just the general dimensions of the engine. So to pull that off is a great feat, and it's awesome to see that they're doing it with our products on there, and we appreciate that and being tagged in those photos. Guys, if you have any project you're doing and you're posting those photos, make sure you tag us in it or use our hashtag PBH equipped, because it gets back to us and we love seeing that stuff, and then we always either will share it through our social media so that more attention gets put on your builds. And we've had plenty of guys reach out to us about doing features on vehicles that they've seen through our social media too, so it garners a little bit of attention as well. Yeah, the beginning, which we had a little part of it, that Porsche Cayman, which that just got mentioned, that Cayman, I don't know if you guys know the whole story on that Cayman, so I'll tell you about it now. That Cayman, we got contacted by email by a guy who was out of the country, didn't speak really good English, who was the owner of the car and needed to get the car tuned. And he got the car brought to us. I wasn't there that day in particular, but it came to us. We had Lund Racing doing our tuning at the time on site, and they went ahead and put a base file in it. It was just a control pack Gen 1 setup with a Boss intake. Really cool custom headers. It was adapted to the transmission from the Cayman, but not everything worked at the time. The gauges weren't working. The clutch was kind of slipping a little bit. I don't even think the steering was really assisted at all because that's all electronic in that car. Yeah, but it sounded good, and we ended up making, I think, like 425 horsepower with it that day on the dyno. And we took some video for the owner of the car. Hey, Bobby, thanks for joining us from Pensacola. And got it done, send the guy the videos, and that's the last we heard of it. And we asked him who had done the work. He gave us the name of the gentleman. I reached out to him, and he flat out told me, yes, I did it. I got it done with some help from some other shops, and I really don't want to know anything about another one again. So it kind of went dormant for a while. We didn't really hear much about it until we saw that it finally got finished and went out to SEMA, and I think Matt Farah drove it and did like a road test in it. And then I decided to put our dyno video together, and we let it out on the internet because at this point it was kind of public knowledge, and the video took off. Guys were kind of sending us hate mail, loving it, hating it. We got a lot of calls from guys wanting to do that swap. It's just not something we ever took on. I mean, we gave them some numbers thinking, what it would take for us to figure it out. Nobody really, bit the bullet, and I haven't seen another one since. I haven't seen anybody duplicate that or try to do it, but the idea of a mid-engine car, because the Cayman is mid-engine, not rear engine like the 911, with a Coyote engine. That Coyote engine maybe being twin turbo. The DCT, or what they call the PDK transmissions that they have, made it up to it. Being that it's a well-balanced car to begin with, can you match that balance with the Coyote engine in there? Maybe you put a blower on it. Having just 600 horsepower in that car, it's got to be a wild ride. And like most of these are going to end up being. These Road Runners, these C10s, these Firebirds, Grand Nationals, they're going to run well. They're going to make power. And then when you pop the hood, you're just going to kind of see those brows do what mine just did. Just like, what? What did you do? What? You spent your money and did this? You didn't go the regular route. Okay. Well, I mean, we don't get that reaction when we see an LS swapped Fox body, because it's just kind of like another LS swapped Fox body. Yeah, it runs well, good. You're just using the chassis because it's a good chassis. I got you. But to see somebody take those extra steps to do it in a Firebird, to do it in a C10 pickup, that's in the Grand National. I mean, in that Porsche, that's a huge undertaking and dedication to get it done, and you bypass a lot of easier options to get a better result. Yeah, someone just mentioned the Mazda Miata. I saw that car on YouTube. Awesome swap. I mean, Miatas have been getting Ford engines for a while. know there was a couple companies putting the Windsor engines in there, making the monster Miatas. Focuses, Fusion, Matt Sopa. I mean, look at the amount of work he did. I think he posted up today that car is available for sale. I think he's got it up for like 40 grand if anybody's looking for a really unique Coyote swapped ride. Pretty much the American version of the Ford Falcon, it looks like in a sense. But those swaps are unique. They're great to see they're being done with some of our products, and they're really stretching what the Coyote engine has done, is putting miles on the Coyote swaps, which is great. And we love seeing them. Do more of them, let it rip. So you guys have any tech questions, start posting them up now. I'm getting close to starting answering that stuff and addressing it. If you got anything going on with your project in particular, post it up. Anything about our products we got coming out, anything you want to see us do, make sure to post it up here so I can start reading through them and getting to them one by one. One of the things I did want to mention is our YouTube channel is growing. I want to thank everybody for the support. Make sure you hit the subscription and the notification button. When you hit the notification button, click all. That way you know everything that's going on. That's really where it counts for us as far as growing the channel. And we make sure that we can reach you every time we release a video or go live. It's a big part of it. And if you visit our website, you can join our newsletter. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Pitino, hey Frank, is it normally a pain to wire up autometer gauges to the Coyote RPM oil pressure coolant? About to tackle it after I do my Hydro Boost tomorrow. It's not really a pain to do it. Oil pressure on a Coyote engine, there's a factory oil pressure sender. It is not needed. The computer doesn't read it. Even the F-150 engines have the solenoid on the oil filter housing. That stuff can just be unplugged and tucked away. So you have that port that you can use to put any type of oil pressure sender back in there to go directly to the gauge that you're using, whether it be autometer or any other brand. RPM, coolant. Coolant's a little bit trickier because there's really no coolant temp sensor on any Coyote engine. It uses cylinder head temperature. It's an inferred kind of calculation. It's reading it through the aluminum on the cylinder head. It's not making direct contact with water. And you need to keep that sensor in that place anyway. So what some guys have done, what I've seen happen is on the water neck that's in the valley, there's that nipple that comes out. And if you're not using a degas bottle, you don't need that nipple. You can pull that nipple right out of the neck and use that port, drill it out to whatever size you have. Sometimes the water temp sensors could be 1/4, 5/8. Tap that port and then put the sensor there. It'll get a good water temp read. It'll be right there front and center as well, so it's easy to service, or if it leaks for any reason, you can get to it. Tachometer, you can use the tach driver to get that. Just wire it up to the coils, and it should pull the signal out and generate it for you. Trying to think voltage, that's kind of generalized. Fuel sender, that's going to be based on your tank. So that's really the harder things to do. If you do get a Dakota Digital cluster, for example, somebody had asked about the installation on the SN95 new edge cars. It's not a hard installation. They do have a CAN bus box. We're working with them to update those signals and those addresses so they'll work better here on all the installations. And they supply it to you with a OBD2 connector. Now, if you're tuning, at that point, you need to also plug into the same OBD2 port. Well, if you have that connector in there for your gauges, when you unplug it and you plug in your N gauge or your SCT tuner, even your HP tuners stuff, you're not going to have any gauges to go by when you start driving it to data log it. So what you want to do is modify it, cut that connector off, find your CAN bus wires on the back side of the OBD2 connector and wire it direct. That way your OBD2 connector is available to use for tuners. And if that's working properly, you're going to be able to pluck things like water temp. You're going to get stuff like voltage, tachometer. If it's an automatic, you should be able to get speed. You should also be able to get transmission temperature, which is one of the things we're working on with them. And you should also be able to get everything else from the CAN bus that we plug, IATs, a couple other throttle position, all those things that are there that are actually visible through the CAN bus should be able to be deciphered and used for gauge inputs, because the Dakota digital gauges do have a message center and you can cycle through them. So we'll do some more of that when we do the Edelbrock installation on the on the New Edge car, the Denny's car. I'm going to try to get the boost sensor so we can get boost to read through that message center as well. Let's see, Ryan Johnson, have a complete 2018 Mustang setup. It's going to my 99 Cobra. Can I use the returnless fuel system that's already in the Cobra? If so, what size fuel pump will I need for my Gen 3? Well, a Gen 3, similar to Gen 1 and 2, I think the rule of thumb is pretty much you need a 255 liter per hour pump. The trick there is if you're going to be doing it returnless, try to get a fuel pump that is designed to be used in a returnless fuel system. If you go and reach for that general 255 liter per hour pump, it's not really designed to be in a returnless fuel system. You could hurt and kill that pump ahead of time or prematurely. So try to track down, I think there's some 340 liter per hour pumps, 450 liter per hour pumps that even Deechworks is coming up with that are designed to be used in S197s and S550s, and then modify your hat to try to get something like that in there. If it's above 255 liter per hour, then you should be good on how much fuel that pump can supply. You will have to change that if you're going to add boost to any setup with that Gen 3, Gen 2, or Gen 1 engine, because it's not going to be enough pump. Then you're going to have to start looking at probably doing a return style system with multiple pumps, which for that 99 Cobra is available even from 4 Innovations as a direct replacement hat where you can get 2 or 3 465 liter per hour pumps. That way you don't have to do booster pumps on top of pumps. So, and it keeps it in tank so it's not noisy and leaky and kind of, just not well thought out. It's just, it seems like a factory replacement setup for you. Let's see. Yeah, so you could use it. Now that if it is returnless, you're not going to have control of it with the control pack. So your control pack, even though it's a factory computer, it's not operating just like factory because you don't really have any wires for the FPDM, and then the FPDM from the factory car isn't going to completely control and identify an aftermarket fuel pump in a 99 Cobra tank. So you're probably not going to want to set it up like that. You want to make sure that that fuel pump, since it is going to be in a returnless setup, that it's being modulated properly to make sure you have enough fuel. Whether that's a good thing or not to do without the FPDM from the factory car, I don't know for sure because we haven't tried it ourselves. We've always just reached for a return style modification. It's simple enough and it has guaranteed results. That's why we kind of push people that way. Even if you're using the GM fuel filter, try to do that because that way, because then it's a known quantity and tuning is going to be a lot easier to square up. If you're going to go the route of returnless, you're going to have to do some testing and see if you can get that pump to stay alive, not overheat the fuel, and make sure it works properly before you get to tuning, and then you can see if it's actually working 110%. So keep those things in mind. Return system is an option for you. It's simple enough to modify on a 99 Cobra hat. All you have to do is get a bulkhead connector or fitting, drill a hole in the hat, and then let the fuel fill the basket as it returns into the tank. And some guys will actually take that basket and drill a bunch of holes in it to make sure the fuel that's moving around in the tank can actually get into the basket as well and make sure that it never goes dry. Hope that answers your question, Ryan. If you need me to follow up on it, just post up again or send us an email on it. Bobby Wortman, Gen 3 10R80 and a 55 Fairlane Chris Alls chassis parts on air. That sounds really good, man. A 55 Fairlane, that's a beautiful car, especially on air. Send me some pictures of that thing. I'd like to take a look at it, especially if you got any of our products on there, because we'll share it and let everybody know about the build. I'm about to have the hottest Coyote in Kansas City, thanks to you guys. That's from Too Fast for Traction. Well, you're welcome, and thank you for choosing PBH. That's a big deal for us. Interested in swapping a 6R80 into my terminated coupe? Let me know approximate cost and details. Well, we don't really have a kit for that kind of swap. We know that you can control a 6R80 behind just about any modular engine. We believe that can happen. We did it on John Lund's gray Terminator that's twin turbo. That car is getting some more updates now. Hopefully we'll have it out this year with everything that's going on. Who knows? But we know it can be done. And that goes to say with 2-valve, 3-valve, 4-valve, 4.6, and 5.4, since they're of the same engine family, we believe that there is a path to control those engines with a Coyote computer, in particular Gen 1. What's important about using that Coyote computer is that you're going to get the OEM tuning and control of the 6R80. Without that, the reviews and the results are kind of mixed with the standalone controllers. With a stock computer, you know it's kind of guaranteed it's going to work and it'll tune properly. The trick is getting the right throttle body on that modular engine, making sure the sensors are reading properly. You're going to have to adapt an 11 to 14 Coyote engine harness or GT500 harness onto that engine to make sure it communicates properly with the Coyote computer, and then tie that into the rest of the car, which in a Fox body isn't a big deal because we already know what it takes to get the gauges working on a Gen 1 swapped Coyote, and the same things would apply. So we do have some parts lists and stuff that we can offer you as far as getting all the parts from us that we know we needed for John's swap and get that applied to your swap in particular. So make sure you email us or call us tomorrow. Info@PBH Performance comes right to me, and I'll get you in contact with our sales guys so they can get you that parts list or the price of all the parts that we know it needs. And then if you need a built 6R80, we can definitely help you out with that too. All the swap parts, drive shaft that we know works, that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely reach out to us on that. Interested in swapping a 6R80 into my, okay, that's Super LX, I already covered it. Alejandro Flores has joined us. Why can't flex fuel tunes work on Coyote swaps? Hint, tank. Well, him and I were talking about this yesterday and today. Flex fuel tunes are very popular on S197s, S550s, Gen 3 cars, all that stuff. The reason why they will not work in a Coyote swap is the computer doesn't know what the fuel level is in the tank. And that's a big part of the flex fuel tuning in the factory cars. So if you're doing a Coyote swap, if you're using a control pack, Ford Racing or ours, or even if you custom made your wiring or had somebody else pluck it for you, a fuel sender from a Fox body, from an F100, if you had that stuff, it's not going to tie into the computer. It's not going to wire up to the computer. The computer's not going to recognize what's going on, and the flex fuel tune will not work. So when you want to run a mix of fuels, 93 octane and E85 on your Coyote swap, just know going into it that you're going to get a 93 tune and an E85 tune. And it's going to be up to you to make sure that the right fuel is in the tank and the right tune is in the computer to make sure they work together. Honestly, I think that's the best route to go anyway, because those flex fuel tunes sometimes are a little lengthy in adapting and adjusting. And if you have boost or something like that, it's not really an option anyway. For somebody who's going to get the most performance out of that setup, it's best to have that tune done for that fuel. Make sure you have good fuel, and you're going to get the best performance out of it. So, PSA, no flex fuel tunes on Coyote swap cars using control packs. Agreed? Good. Bobby Wortman again. What do you do with the wiring then on the oil pressure gauge? I'm messing with that now. The wiring on the oil pressure gauge, on the factory gauge, Bobby, you may have to clear that up for me. Correction, oil pressure sender. Okay, you did. You can just tuck them up out of the way, man. They're not used. They don't have any function to the computer. So the computer is not going to go into limp mode if it doesn't see those senders. All those senders do is trigger a warning lamp if they see basically oil pressure go below a certain threshold. So if your oil pressure drops below like 10 or 15 psi, it'll trigger a light on the dashboard. Well, that has nothing to do with the computer. It's not going to trigger any type of fail-safe mode or anything like that. So you can unplug it, you can cut them, you can get them out of the way, you can pull them all the way out of the harness if you want to, but really you can just tuck them up out of the way and not use them. It's no big deal. Ford OBD2 connector. You can buy a Y or splitter to plug two items in. Yes, you can, but we have seen where some of those splitters will interrupt tuning. So if you're trying to do data logging or load a tune, some of those splitters I have seen cause issues. So make sure you get a good quality one and test it before you start using it 100%. Just as a fair warning on that. Scott Robinson, hey, you're welcome, man. That's what we're here for. That's what we wanted to do this. This actually helps us ease the load on emails and comments that sometimes we don't see. I know we have a backlog of comments and emails to get to on Instagram, on Facebook, and we have them coming in from the website, and we have phone calls all day. So doing these live sessions, getting some answers to you guys really helps even that load out a little bit so we're not too overwhelmed. Gen 3 10R80 on an 06 GT, besides brackets and fittings, what do I need? Gen 3 10R80 in an 06 GT, cross member brackets. Okay, I see what you're saying. You're going to need a control pack to run that, which right now is a little bit of an issue, and our harness really is not going to be set up for Gen 3 for a while, I think. I think Gen 1, Gen 2 is going to come after that, but not right after it. So, really, if you do go the route of a Ford Race control pack to get that swap done, you're going to treat it just like any other swap. You're going to control a fan with the fan trigger. You're going to control the transmission engine from that computer. Where you're going to run into issues, like we have up to now, is gauges, AC controls, lighting. Those things are going to come into play. And there's a few different, I think there's two different ways to approach that. You're either going to keep the stock computer from the 3-valve car in play, feed information into that computer with wiring and senders, so that then we'll send the information to your body control module, convert it for the CAN bus, and then send it to the gauges. Or you're going to put aftermarket gauges in. You know, a set of 4.5-inch or 5.5-inch gauges from Dakota Digital fit right down in the holes of a factory dashboard of an 05 to 09 GT. And then what you can do there is mount those on top of the cluster. Remove the lens from the cluster. That way your fuel level sender and message center in the middle will still work and still be visible. And then the aftermarket gauges kind of sit down in the holes on top of it. So you can have your fuel level. I think voltage is in there as well. And then you have your aftermarket gauges that'll tie into all of your Coyote swap stuff and read properly for water temp and oil pressure and tachometer and speed. All those things can be then generated and put in to those gauges from the control pack and other systems as well. All right, hey, this is Build for Speed. Hey, I'm trying to build my own MT82 for my 5.2 Coyote board. Build 5.2 Coyote build. Do you guys have any kits and instructions for that? I don't, not on the MT82. A lot of the MT82 build stuff that we've done, we either did through Astro Performance or Ben Calamer. I'm not sure if they have any tech out there on doing those builds. You may want to pick up one of the Hemmings manuals. Actually, Ford sells their workshop manuals as well. And they have online access as well to get that stuff if you need intricate knowledge as far as putting the assembly back together, just like factory. So that's what I'll be digging at. F-150, S550. Big question here. How is the solenoid for fans wired up? We do have instructions for that. If you look at our body harness instructions, which is part number PCP1116 in our instruction setup, but essentially something like that. I was helping somebody with it earlier today. If I can find the notepad. Here's my notepad. Okay. This is the note I drew up earlier. That is the continuous duty solenoid that we offer for factory fans when you're doing a Coyote swap. And what you're going to be doing is there's two big lugs, one on each side of the solenoid. That's going to be your power in from your battery. It should be fused. And then that's going to be the power out to the fan. And then the two smaller lugs, you're going to have a ground and then the trigger wire from the control pack. So your control pack, even our own, has a wire that comes out of the PCM, and that's going to be your fan trigger. Now, all the control packs have a 40 amp relay and I think a 30 amp fuse or 25 amp fuse. That's usually not enough for factory fans. That's why we have to use this continuous duty solenoid. It's kind of like a big coil, and it helps deaden the load when the fan turns on so you don't blow the relay or overheat it or blow the fuse. If you're going to use an aftermarket fan like a Spall, any of the aftermarket stuff that's slim, you usually don't need to get the continuous duty solenoid. But if you are using it, look up those instructions. There's a really nice diagram on how that works. I think we have it as part of the listing for the solenoid itself. If not, email us. We'll tell you exactly what to do. But this is pretty much what you got to do. You're going to have a trigger, the trigger wire here, ground here, power in, power out, and you're done. If you need any follow-up information on that, make sure you post up here. Let's see where we left off. Interesting. I think drunk mother, you know what? Thanks for all you do for us DIY guys. You have my business. You're welcome. Your question, are the Gen 3 F-150 Coyote same as Gen 2 when it comes to the control pack? No, they're not. There are some differences. I think there's some light at the end of the tunnel as far as getting those to work. We're going to be working with somebody we mentioned earlier in the broadcast to try to get some resolution to that, like we did with the Gen 2 stuff. I think the same thing's going to apply like it did in the Gen 2. If you're going to be using a truck motor with a Ford Race control pack, leave the truck cams in there if we figure out something on the control pack side. If you want to use it right now, I need to get this project done and get it working, you're going to have to start replacing components, camshafts, VCT stuff, harnesses, to get it to work like a Mustang engine. That way the control pack will work, if you can get a control pack, because they're on back order. So keep in touch with us and let us know if you need any more information on that. I'll be updating everybody weekly if we have anything in that front that's positive. If we see that it's working, that way we can get guys working again with those F-150 engines when I having to reconstruct the whole engine and replace all their wiring. Lucci Olivia, I hope I said that right. Yes, off the bat, they're all going to be Gen 1. In fact, off the bat, they're all going to be Gen 1, in particular for the 07 and 09 guys. We need to work on getting some 05, 06 connectors for the PCM. They're a little bit different, I think, or something with the wiring is going on. I'll get some clarification on that soon enough. But yeah, they're going to all be Gen 1 right off the bat. It doesn't take a whole lot to change it over to Gen 2, so I think we'll have a Gen 2 option soon enough. It would only make sense for us to do so. I'm not sure, Bobby, on the Bobby's asking if the oil sender unit thread on the 18 is 12 by 1.5. I'm not sure. I have some 18 engines out there in the shop. I'll see if I can take one out tomorrow. If you can remember to email me asking that question, I'll see if I can find that information out for you, because I can pull the sender out and just measure the threads on it and confirm that for you. It'll be good for us to know. The signal for RPMs to wire to the cluster, what wire is to be used. Also, the select shift pin kit you guys provide is the wiring for Gen 2 control pack 6R80. Yes, on the pin kit, we came up with that pin kit for the select shift because Ford Racing released their 6R80 Gen 2 control pack and pulled that stuff out, not knowing that all they had to do is leave it in there and it would work just fine. So all you need to do is pin it in the Gen 2s. Now, when it comes to Gen 1, you're talking about our control pack, we've always had that wiring already in the harness for you, so you don't have to do any pinning or anything like that. It's only the Gen 2 Ford Race control packs for the 6R80 that kit will be used for. Let me get a drink of water here. All right. And then as far as the signal for RPMs to wire to the cluster, what wires to be used, I imagine it's going to be some of the coiling wires. You're going to have to use a tack driver, I believe, to get signal in, that pulse, and then it will generate the tack signal that relays to the gauges. The factory signal just isn't what you need right off the bat. Usually, depending on the gauge you're using, you're going to have some sort of module to convert it. Okay, Bobby, clarification. You're telling us that it is, so the Gen 3 oil sender unit thread is 12 millimeter by 1.5. Thanks for clarifying that. I must have misread that. So yeah, if anybody's doing oil pressure sender stuff, the factory one is 12 millimeter by 1.5. I'm pretty sure there's adapters out there. If not, websites like McMaster Car, really good source for finding stuff like that. Bushings, they call them. Let's see here. Scott Livingston. Oh, excuse me, Alex. Alex just chimed in with a paid question. Thank you for your support,  How is the PBH cold air working for you? Yes. we have a cold air kit. It's kind of a universal kit for Coyote swaps. It's a real simple setup. It includes a intake tube. It's about 18 inches long, has a mass air flange on it. The manufacturer of that tube has mounted the mass air flange in a position where it's going to be closest to the throttle body side, which is a little unorthodox. We're used to seeing all our cold air kits and the factory ones with the mass air right off the air filter. Now, we tested it on my car, which is our road race setup car, and it works just fine. The signal's clean. There's no disruptions. We're not seeing anything weird with the end of the throttle body. So we had someone call us today and said that their tuner was refusing to tune their vehicle because they felt that it was going to cause issues with that orientation. I got news for you. We've got it on several cars like that, several customers, Lund tuned that we know of for sure, and there's no issues. So it may look a little unorthodox, but it does work. Now, with that 18-inch tube, you don't have to keep it at 18 inches. You can cut it down to whatever size you need. Simple enough. We provide the air filter. It's a nice big K&N air filter, not an aftermarket unit or a white box version. And we got a nice 3.5-inch silicone elbow with T-bolt clamps that come in the kit. We even give you the PCV fitting with grommet. So if you're going to hook up your factory PCV system, the sealed system, or use like a JLT catch can or something like that, or one from UPR, you can have that added. Make sure you add that after the mass air in the silicone elbow. Don't put it in front of it. The stuff that's being circulated by that could throw off some of the readings and it could gunk up the mass airflow meter. By the way, the mass airflow meter on all our cars, it is directional. It does. You can't just switch it around on the mass air flange. So. Thank you for asking that, Alex. It was a topic of conversation today. Scott Livingston, I have a 2011 Coyote motor I got from work that has a cracked number 7 sleeve, had a slight misfire cylinder number 7, worth tear down and rebuilding. It's worth tear down and rebuilding if you're really going to build something strong. If you're planning on sleeving it. I mean, if it's got a cracked block in number 7, really I think that's going to be your only repair that you can do to that block. So that means you're going into a dedicated to build an engine that requires sleeves. So that means you're going to be pushing upwards of 1,000 horsepower or more, because that's typically where we need sleeves in the engine anyway. If that's the case and that's the road you're going to go down anyway, why not do it to that engine? You already have it. If you're not really looking to go 1,000 or let's say 900 plus consistently, then it's probably best to go find another short block, get a replacement short block or another used engine, make sure that one's in good health, and work off of that one. Yeah, 98,000 miles with a crack sleeve. Unless you're looking to build an engine for big power, probably not a great candidate to use, Scott. So keep that in mind. Let's see here. F-150, S550. The cluster is OEM 07 F-150. Did the 4.62 valve have a similar signal to the Coyote? Let's see here. 4.62 valve and an 07 F-150. 07 F-150 is going to be CAN bus. So there's not going to be a direct wire to the cluster for tachometer. It's going to go to the PCM. The PCM is going to create a signal or an address for it and send it to the body control module or the cluster, and they're going to figure out things from there. So there is no wire, to my knowledge, going to the cluster. So there is no wire, again, on the engine harness that you can then say, hey, connect here and get signal. That one's going to be a little bit tricky if you're doing it in an 05. And anything newer than really 99 from Ford is all CAN bus. So you're, at that point, using your computer, your factory computer, as a converter to develop that address so the cluster will work. The only light at the end of that tunnel, which I saw years ago, Autometer had on display at a Good Guys show in Columbus. And I remember going up there, and they had an F-150 cluster from an 07 on display, and they were controlling the cluster with a module that they had developed to put additional input stuff for like transmission temperature that the cluster wouldn't show. And they said that they could really control that, produce that box to control everything on the cluster. So obviously they've been working on CAN bus manipulation or filtering and adding signals into it and going to OEM clusters. So They just never manufactured it. I never saw it again. So might be an avenue to reach out to them and see if they have it, but I've never been able to get anything out of it. The closest has been Dakota Digital with their gauges. I know Speed Hut has OBD2 stuff, but it's just hard to package that into an '07 F-150 that has a stock cluster, knowing how that thing's laid out, and then start putting round gauges in there. That's, it's a little bit too far away from OEM. It's not a race car, and so forth. Let's see here. Thrill Seeker Motorsports. Anything coming for the vacuum boost reference port for 18 intakes? I haven't seen anything for them yet. Only pre-18 intakes. We're going to look at that. I've mentioned it to the team about looking at that. It's a little bit tricky on the 18 intakes because everything is plastic. There's no bolt-down vacuum port. And the way they're installed in there, I think, is either with some sort of a glue or adhesive, or maybe even with heat. And they're not easily removed. So if you go to remove it, you got plastic on plastic. If you're using heat, you can melt the whole thing and ruin the intake. If you go to remove it and it cracks, how do I get it out of there? And then what am I putting in there to try to replace it? The only thing we've thought up to now is maybe an aluminum bushing with a threaded input or port like we do currently for the Gen 1 and Gen 2 intakes that bolt down with an O-ring, but then how do we seal it? Now we're again talking about using adhesives or some sort of a epoxy, and the results could be mixed. The end user is going to be the person responsible for making that work and work 100%. And that's not usually where we want to leave you guys. We want to leave you with a real good solution. So unless we find one, we may not have one from us. But that's what you're up against on an 18 intake. I know I got the same situation. Who was that asked that question? Thrill Seeker Motorsports. I have an 18 intake on my car, and it doesn't have an engine cover on it, and it looks hideous. I have 3 towers coming out of the intake, and they all have vacuum caps on it, and every once in a while the vacuum cap cracks and gives me a vacuum leak, and the car runs like shit. So I might be looking at it. Maybe I'll figure it out for you. Let's see. Keep in touch. Scott Lemons, planning on a full build on an 82 GT. Scott also have a PCM from a 16 GT that was married to a tuner. I just had to install a new one and load his as-built data to return the car to stock for sale. Any way to get into it, or is it trash? Well, it's not trash. I mean, if you have a PCM that's married, wait a minute. If you have a PCM that's married to a tuner, you don't have to return the PCM to stock. Usually whatever custom tuning you're going to do is going to overwrite whatever's in there. So as an example, you have that PCM, it had a tune in it, and you got a new tuner working on it. If he's using SCT or even the Lund Racing N-Gauge, all it's going to happen is it's going to download whatever's in that computer as a stock file and then upload the new information. So you don't have to return the PCM to as-built data to switch tuners or continue to tune with that PCM. Where you have to go backwards is on the tuner itself. So if it's an SCT tuner and it's married to that PCM and you want to use that tuner on a different vehicle, then you either have to unmarry it. If you can't unmarry it, then you got to send it to them and spend $150. If it's an N-Gauge, I believe, it doesn't matter. You just get a new tune. You just can't use it on 2 vehicles at once. So keep that in mind. If you need any clarification on that, make sure your emails or seller hat and tuner are long gone. Well, again, I think if I read your question properly, you're talking about the PCM itself. You don't have to return anything to stock. You just get your new tuner, have your tune written for it, and do the process as if you were starting with a brand new car. It's just going to download whatever the PCM has in it as a stock file, and you're just going to keep going on your merry way. Just know if you ever return it to stock, then you're not going to, if you ever return it to stock, it's going to go back to what it was to begin with. So, can you elaborate on a way to make the reverse lights function? Okay, this is a good question. Reverse lights on a 6R80. Thank you for asking that. Reverse lights on a 6R80 are a little bit tricky because, again, kind of like your tag signal, they're CAN bus. There is no wire coming out of the transmission that's broadcasting that it's in reverse. Similarly, there is no wire that's being run that gives you a park signal, reverse, neutral, drive, any of that stuff. Even what gear you're in, all that is being generated by the computer in the CAN bus, in that data stream. So right now, the only way to get reverse lights is with a micro switch. A micro switch that engages with the shift lever or with your shifter. Locar has been notified of this, and we've asked them to convert the unused micro switch at the top of the shifter to give a signal when you put it in reverse, and they have not done that update. I believe because in GM applications and in standalone applications, they need that micro switch for select shift, where in a factory application, you don't need it. So that switch just sits there not doing anything, and there's no detent on the reverse to trigger it. So you could figure out a way to use something like that on whatever shifter you're using, so that when it goes in the reverse position, maybe it triggers a micro switch or down on the shift lever. I believe that's something that we're working on right now to help guys get reverse lights working on the 6R80. So look for updates on that. I'm not going to release too much information on it because we do have competition in the marketplace that every once in a while likes to trace what we do. But I believe we're going to have something for you guys here soon enough with that. So keep in touch on that one. Let's see here. Lucci, can I secretly become a Gen 2 harness test mule? Well, keep in touch with us, man. We're eventually going to need that. I don't think Christian's car that we already did the swap on was a Gen 2. I think it was a Gen 1. So eventually we're going to need that. We're going to need to have a Gen 2 mule car to maybe send a harness to. Just keep in touch with us. That's how we have the guys that are lined up now. It's all by email. It was kind of first come, first serve. And a lot of those guys relayed to us that the stuff that we're not going to have in the early handmade harnesses is not a factor to them. So we want to make sure they get their stuff. They can tell us if it works. We can get some feedback from them, work with them through any issues we run into before we go into production, and start making 100, 200 of these things at a time. So keep in touch with us. See here, too fast for traction. I have a wrecked 18 GT and parts I need to take off besides motor, tranny, and gas pedal. So from your donor vehicle, from your 18 GT, really what you're going to be plucking from there, if you're going to be using a control pack, you're not going to need the body harness, you're not going to need the fuse panel, you're not going to need the gauges because most likely you're not going to be able to get those to work 110%. It's up to you if you want to use the cooling fan, if it survived whatever accident it came in it, if it was in an accident. You're going to need your engine, obviously, your engine and transmission harness. There's only 2 connectors on that PCM. Actually, no, there's 3 on the Gen 3, excuse me. And then you have an engine and transmission harness. You're going to need those, but if you're going to be using a control pack, you don't need the body harness. So take that thing out, unplug it, throw it in the pile, maybe try to resell it to somebody as a complete harness. You're not going to need that if you're going to be using a control pack. Control pack's going to give you a PCM, so you're not going to need that. It's going to come with brand new O2 sensors, so you might as well replace those. Mass airflow meter, it's probably going to have a cold air kit that you may or may not use. You may already have one already. So you're not going to need a whole lot off the car other than the hard parts. And then I'm not sure if you're going to try to use that drive shaft. Usually you're going to have to get a custom 1-piece drive shaft made. The factory ones are 2-piece, and it's even harder to use those because now you got to mount a carrier bearing, so you're not going to need that stuff. So shifter cable and shifter also in there. Transmission cooler, man, you could try to make it work by cutting up the lines and everything, but our 6R80, 10R80 fittings make that really easy to do. And if you have an existing aftermarket transmission cooler on the project car, you can try to adapt it to that, or get our transmission cooler kit or any transmission cooler kit and make that work. Our fittings converted to -8AN, make that really easy. If you're planning on using the stock shifter and cable, obviously get that stuff out of there. If you're not, we have our shift lever and shift stop bracket that help adapt that to older style stuff. Let's see here. David Martin, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks for being part of the broadcast. Patino Performance, another question. I haven't taken a look at how my drive shaft is going to fit with the Terminator T56, but do you know anybody local who does a good job shortening or lengthening? If it's an aluminum drive shaft, there aren't a whole lot of guys who are local to us. I know if it's a steel or maybe even chromoly drive shaft, um, there is a guy off of Lantana in 441 that does an excellent job with steel shafts, and he balances them in house. You may want to call that guy anyway, and hopefully he's still around because he could probably tell you who does the aluminum stuff if you need that. I remember there was a company in Tampa that we dealt with to make a custom aluminum shaft once, and they dealt with all diameter drive shafts. I'll have to dig up their name. It's been a while since I used them. They also could be somebody, but being that they're Tampa, you don't want to ship a drive shaft and then get a drive shaft back. It gets pretty costly. But I think, forget the name of the guy off of Lantana and 441. We'll have to Google search him, look him up that way. That guy was excellent. He was always helpful, and did a great job when we did do our drive shafts that he could do for us. 2000 MCR crank-a-pallet question. Crank-a-pallet. What's your question on the crank-a-pallet? Should you do one? My thoughts on the crank-a-pallet are try to get a really good deal on them, because in most cases you're going to need a control pack to finish your swap. Thinning out these harnesses is not the easiest thing. Again, you saw kind of what happens when you do thin one out. And if you are the kind of guy that knows how to do that stuff and can do an excellent job with it, it's not a bad deal. You get everything you need and it's in your grasp, and do it. What I always tell people who are going to try to do this that aren't wiring gurus or don't have a complete, knowledge base to get it done is think about startup. If it doesn't work, something happens. Every wire that you modified is a potential issue. Everything you pulled out is a potential issue. So body harnesses are available in control packs. If it's Gen 1, you can buy it separately from us. And they're plug and play. There's a few blunt leads to hook up, but they're plug and play. If it doesn't work, you have a network of guys here at PBH to help you tech through it. I'll tell you, Ron Francis harnesses. Ron Francis gives you a kit. He sends you every connector with a spool of wire, and you can design and make your own wiring harness. But at that point, if it doesn't work on startup, they can't help you. They don't have any tech to really help you through it because you've touched and manipulated everything in the kit. What can they help you with? If it's a manufacturing default, you're going to have to find it. So I think by using the known quantity of wiring harnesses, it works out better and you have a more consistent result. And in doing so, if you're looking at a crank-a-pallet, get a damn good deal on it, because a lot of the stuff you're going to get in it, you're not going to use. And it's probably not going to be stuff that you can sell easily. A PCM only has the value of a core, maybe 75 to 100 bucks in the used market. An instrument cluster for an S550 isn't something that breaks every day, and you can't use it for much else. The body harness, it's massive. The fuse block, you can't resell that stuff typically. I mean, who really is going to make that repair in their car, especially if they're not known for having issues? So you're going to have a lot of duplication or redundancy in the parts that you have for your swap. So, and the control packs aren't cheap. They're all $1,600 and up. Ours is $2,200 in some cases. And even the Gen 3 10R80 stuff, retail on it's $2,300 bucks. So if you're buying a crank-a-pallet for something like that and you got to go out and spend those dollars, make sure you're getting those savings and buying in bulk, basically, so that it doesn't hurt your budget too much. Keep those things in mind. If you are doing a swap to another chassis, it's a little bit different. If you got a guy who has a EcoBoost S550 or a V6 S197 and wants to put a GT engine in there, that's where a crank-a-pallet I think is the best option, or literally buying a wreck car. So everything's in there and you get it, and because you can reuse everything. You're going to need the PCM. You're going to want the ABS, the electronic part of the ABS unit. You're going to want the airbox. You're going to want the wiring. You're going to want everything. Give me the whole enchilada, because then I can put it in this chassis and make it work. Even if you got a shell of an 05 to 2010 car, you might be able to put all that stuff in there and make it work. So it's a little bit different. It kind of depends on your swap. Just be conscious of that stuff and what you're going to have to buy to make it work, or the amount of work you're going to have to do to make it work, to make that purchase work for you. So let's see here. It is steel, that drive shaft for Patino. If it is steel, man, look that guy up. Lantana and 441. He's on the west side of the road behind the gas station. There's a little strip mall back there. And power line, performance, power something. That guy does excellent work on steel drive shafts, and he balances them as well in-house. F-150, S550. PBH is a little more expensive, but you're buying a service, not just a part to figure it out. Exactly. I mean, realistically, we're not dealing with millions and millions of parts. We don't have a parts bin like Ford Performance can pull from, where they control cost a little bit better. So stuff like our control packs are always going to be on the higher end, and stuff that we do wiring wise, again, we can't, honestly, just straight up, we can't afford to just make 2,000 of these things on a whim. So we got to do stuff in lower quantities, and manufacturing here in the USA, it's going to cost more. So, but at the end of that expenditure, just like with our brackets, just like with our wiring, all the parts that we make, we have more control over the quality. We have more control over the product as it's delivered to you. We have to spend less time QCing those products before they go to you, and we have to spend less time answering questions with issues. I can tell you right now, there's probably on this hand, I can count how many times we've actually had a manufacturing issue with a control pack. And most of the calls we get are guys putting grounds in the wrong place, shorting out relays and fuses, or connecting stuff in the wrong position. The 16-pin connectors, for example, on our body harness, they're all the same. So if you don't look closely at how they're labeled, you could plug the wrong one into the wrong harness and go for a loop. And we work with people and go through all those issues step by step. We try to stay calm and get things figured out for you. And it really helps. And honestly, a comment like that goes to show that it's effective. The fact that we've been successful in this market, and have a continuing customer base, one that continues to grow, not because we spend thousands and millions of dollars on advertising, because we have a niche product, that goes to show that the proof is in the pudding. You got to be there for your customers. You got to think about what you manufacture. You got to make sure there's instructions. You got to make sure the stuff works, and you got to make sure that it's quality. Because if not, you're probably not going to be successful in our eyes. And we started small. We just made a bracket kit, and look at all the different things that we make, and they continue to be good products, known as good products, and they continue to help a lot of guys finish builds. We spent a lot of time coaching guys. There's a lot of guys we spent time on the phone teching products that they didn't buy from us, that wasn't manufactured by us, that in turn helped those companies. And we spent time on the phone calling those companies, telling them what the issue is, and sometimes even cold calling them to see what their salespeople say, to make sure that guys in the Coyote Swap community are being told the right stuff, because we hear some wacky stuff. That cold air intake deal with the tuning, I don't want to speak too much on. I don't know who the guy's tuner is, but that may be proof that that guy doesn't do a whole lot of Coyote tuning, or maybe he's a guy that uses a lot of tuning that's kind of sampled from other people and can't vary from certain things. In a sense, can't work around different combinations, and that's an issue, because, and it happened with us either too. Tuning's kind of weird, from 1 month to the next. We know that this injector is the way to go. Oh, wait, now we know that this injector is the way to go, and it may not be based on performance or quality of the product. It's just based on data, and if you don't have the data, it's hard to do. If you can't manipulate the data, then I know for a fact that you cannot vary from this combination, and that's a variance from that other combination I tuned, so it's not going to work. And all of a sudden it's Bible, and it's not true. It's just not true. So do your homework with anybody you're working with. Make sure that they can help you with stuff if they do sell it to you. If they don't have a tech line, if they don't have complete product knowledge, just know that going in, you may have to reach out to somebody like us and it might be worth coming to our live stream and asking us questions, sending us emails. The super chat is a great way to support us in those ventures, buying t-shirts, buying our banner, that kind of stuff. If you're not buying product and you're just getting tech, it's a good way to just kind of say thank you. And we do appreciate it. We do see it. We do see those t-shirt sales go up. We do see the donations in the super chat. We see that stuff and we know that it's probably somebody that got a question answered, and we're not going to sit there and pound you and hold you to the coals to do it. But even Ford Racing, I think, when you call their tech hotline, at a certain point, they just go, hey, call PBH. And they've even thanked us in person and over the phone for helping them through those things. And man, I just wish we could work more with those guys. We can solve a lot of those problems before they even happen. So you're welcome for that, guys. I see a couple comments in the chat about that. You're welcome. We're enthusiasts too. There was a time where we were guys on the other end of the phone asking questions, looking for tech, and there was guys in the industry who were gracious enough to help us with it. And that's just the path we want to go down. You know, we're going to be honest with you. We're going to be as straight shooter as possible, spend as much time with you as we can. Just know that if it's not something we sold to you, there are avenues that you can still support us through. Founded Drive Shaft Power. That's the guy. Patino, yes. Drive Shaft Power. That is the guy. I forget his name, but call him, and those guys are excellent. Hopefully they're open. They should be an essential business, since they're kind of loosely based on auto repair and service. Terry Scott, trying to put a Coyote in a 66 Galaxy, oil pan options. I don't know if anybody has any specific oil pan options for a 66 Galaxy. What I would ask there, Terry, if you can respond to this, are you using the stock chassis? Are you using an aftermarket chassis? Is there a different, Mustang 2 front end or something like that? So let us know what that is. So maybe there might be some options within those aftermarket suspensions. That's probably why you're not going to find oil pan modifications or modified oil pans on the market based on the chassis of the vehicle, but as a factory chassis, but more kind of loosely based on what aftermarket suspension you're putting in there, because usually you're not using the factory suspension underneath it. I have a 67 Falcon, and I'll tell you right now, if I searched Coyote oil pan for 64 Falcon, I'm not going to find anything. I might find something for a Heights front suspension, an Aluma frame, things like that, that'll help me find what the answer is. Now, the oil pan on your Gen 1 and Gen 2 Coyotes, F-150 and Mustang, they are steel, so they are easier to modify. So if you do have to modify it, that's probably a good thing to know. There are aftermarket oil pans out there that might be lower profile that'll help from companies like Canton and Moroso. Just keep in mind those aftermarket oil pans are usually designed for road racing. What they do in road racing is they add more oil capacity and flaps and diverters and stuff like that, traps. And when they do that, they kick out the backside of the pan. And when they do that, it may be an issue with starter clearance and aftermarket header clearance. So the stock oil pan, if you think you can make it work by modifying a little bit, just like we've had to do on Fox bodies in the past where K-members and stuff had collisions, try to modify the stock one. That way you don't run into other issues down the road and, get that snowball effect. I fixed this, and now I gotta fix that and the other thing. So just let us know if that's a stock chassis or not. I might have some insight for you on that. Austin Baxter, let's see here. Thanks for joining us. Which Tremec Trans 6-speed comes with the powertrain kit? I believe you're getting a T56. I'm not sure if it's T56 Magnum or if they're all T56 Magnums or not, but I know it's a T56. It's not an MT82. Obviously, that's not Tremec. And I don't think Tremec makes another 6-speed. Oh, they make the 6060. I know it's not a 6060, so I'm pretty sure you're getting a T56 in there. Yeah, F-150, S-550, you are correct. It is T56. Greg Watkins, I have a 1998 F-150. I'm thinking about Coyote swap, and it's a 5-speed. Will that transmission work with a Coyote? In a 1998 F-150, I believe the 5-speeds, I don't think they were Tremec transmissions. Now, if it was behind a V8, the bolt pattern is going to be the same. All modular Ford V8s have the same bolt pattern on the back of the engine. So it's going to bolt up. So then you got to worry about things like flywheel. If the V8 you had only had a 6-bolt crank, that means your 6-bolt flywheel that works with that transmission isn't going to bolt up to a Coyote because it's got an 8-bolt crank. So then you're going to have to find an 8-bolt flywheel that'll accept that clutch and work with the proper throw for that input shaft. Since the Navigator of that time didn't come as a manual, I'm not sure you're going to find that. So it might be best to switch to a different transmission to make sure you have a known quantity. If it does have an 8-bolt crank, awesome. That means that you're going to be able to take that transmission, bolt it up to the Coyote, bolt that flywheel on there, check some clearances, check the pilot bearings. I know the pilot bearings sometimes are different sizes if you do change the flywheel. If you do have to use an aftermarket flywheel or one from a Mustang and use a clutch subsequently, then you're going to have to check the throw on the throw-out bearing and so forth. Those are things to look at and consider. Let's see here. Austin Baxter got you taken care of. You're welcome. Thank you for joining the live stream. F-150, S550, also in the super chat here. FRPP shot me straight to you with engine harness. Well, that's awesome. You know, we work hand in hand with those guys. We're not dealers for Ford Performance. We tried for years. And they gave us every excuse on the planet not to make us dealers, even before we started all this Coyote swap stuff. Now with the change in their distribution, I mean, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but a lot of the known sources for Mike, how you doing, Mike?
What's going on?
I got your remnants of your harness here. If you want to say hi to everybody, come on over. Mike Chamberlain's here. He's coming to get some parts after hours. Say hi to everybody on the live stream. You guys might know Mike from some of Yolo's videos and his Toyota pickup that he's swapping. Talk about crazy swaps.
What are you guys doing with the harness?
Oh, the harness? I'm raffling it off.
Oh, all right,
Yeah.
cool. Get it out of my way.
So, so Mike's the guy doing all the wiring right now. So before we get too derailed on that transmission, yeah, is that what we're talking about? It's a 4.6 MF1. Yeah, so that transmission should bolt up. If you do change the clutch, change the flywheel, check pilot bearing, check the throw of the clutch, make sure it works with the input shaft so you don't have a pedal that goes down or doesn't come up and doesn't engage or disengage properly. Oh, as far as Ford Racing, that's what you're saying. Ford Racing, dealers. I'm sorry, I got derailed there with Mike. They wouldn't make us dealers, man. We offered to do the buy-in and everything. They gave us every excuse. We're too close to other dealers. We were competition at one point, we were told, which we didn't really want to hear. We didn't really want to compete with them. We just want to offer their product and maybe work with them on some stuff. And now they've changed their distribution, so a lot of the known players that get discount Ford Racing stuff are not around anymore because they changed their distribution network. And now, even though we're not dealers, we have a really good source for Ford Performance stuff, which is why you see us offering more Ford Performance products and getting them on our website and getting them out to you guys. Yeah, on that I'm not sure which transmission it is. I think that's that Mazda 5-speed. I have a 97 F-150 that has that Mazda 5-speed. I'm on my second one. The truck has like 300,000 miles on it, but it's a 4.2 liter V6. I terrorized that transmission in high school. It was my first vehicle. Thank God I didn't have a V8. I would have blown the whole truck up. That truck is still in our family, and I hope to put an EcoBoost powertrain in it one day. And bag it and get it on the ground and lay frame and all that weird shit. So let's see here. Nick Meyer, what's up, brother? Always appreciate the help, dude. The t-shirts are mint. Gonna order a few more. Nick, if you guys don't know who Nick Meyer is, he is Cobra Kai Coyotes. Really good dealer of ours. If you're ever gonna do a Coyote swap, he's a guy to consider to take your car to or your build. He can help you get all of our parts with that build, and he knows how to do them. He does really clean work. He is building probably one of my dream trucks right now. It is a nasty F100. You might have seen some of the photos. It's got those crazy carbon fiber heat extractor elements in the hood. It is down on the ground. It is laying body, it looks like. And it's getting a supercharged Coyote that has these Speed Series pulleys on it right behind me here. Has a lot of our products on it. I can't wait to see that truck done. It's the kind of truck that makes me want to put up a booth at a Good Guys event, invite Nick to come and park it there for 4 days and hang out with us, so people will come and see our product on a vehicle and recognize our company as well. And it'll probably get featured that weekend. I know maybe we'll put that together. Nick, I think you're in, correct me if I'm wrong, are you in Illinois? Or, yeah, I think you're in Illinois, right? Let us know in the chat there. He says he's going to name the truck the Virus. Getting a lot of work done right now, LOL. You're in Chicago, yes, in Illinois. So maybe we can find an event to collaborate at down the road here once you get that truck done. I'd love to get it there and represent us in a way. If we ever get back to going to car shows because of the virus, shit is getting real. I really want to get back out there. There's a lot of autocrosses I want to get to and collect some more trophies. We got a few of them here. This one broke. Anyway, I'd love to get out to some events. We were planning on doing Mustang Week. We were planning on doing Foxtoberfest again. I was trying to get out to Good Guys in North Carolina. That's been postponed. Nashville is the next target. We'll see if that happens again. But, you know, maybe we can work on something. The Virus is a great name for the truck, considering the times. I think you're going to have competition in that arena. Me personally, I like all the Tiger King liveries going on Corvettes and Skylines. They're using the taillights for the eyes of the tiger. And you got Joe Exotic on the back. That man is beautiful. You guys let me know. If any of you don't know what the Tiger King is or have seen all the memes are on fire right now. There is all sorts of stuff out there. It is hilarious. That guy somehow has him, Tiger King, Joe Exotic, Doc Antle, Carol Baskin are now the three most popular people in the world during a pandemic. I think it's Trump and them. That's the only people I hear about every day now. But thanks for chiming in, Nick. Again, beautiful truck. Thank you for being a great dealer and supporter of PBH. We appreciate that. It's what makes us a strong company, man. Let's see here. Terry Scott chimed back in. Rockford installing a Coyote in a 66 Galaxy. So is Rockford the chassis manufacturer? So if Rockford is a chassis manufacturer, which you might want to ask them if the chassis is designed to work specifically with a Coyote or a modular Ford engine. And if they have any pictures of a 4.6 engine in their chassis, that chassis in particular, because then you can kind of see where it's going to lie, and maybe if a 4.6 oil pan had to be modified, you're probably going to do those same modifications to the Coyote oil pan. Let's see here. Scott Livingston chiming in again. Let's see here. More questions about the F-150 motor and Mustang PCM. Can I talk with somebody over email about the questions I have? Absolutely. info@pbhperformance.com. That comes straight to me. If you call the front counter, which is right here on outside of the office, you're going to get either Pezzo or Christian. They can help you with it as well. You're welcome. Absolutely. Rockford is the town. Okay. Rockford, Illinois. Okay. 10-4. So, guys, it looks like I've gone a little bit over an hour that I planned. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and shut things down for the night. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I think we saw about 35 people in here at one point. The chat was busy tonight. That's great to see. We're going to be here again next Wednesday night. Even if things change with the virus, I'll do the live broadcast from my house to make sure we stay in contact with everybody. Make sure, if you have the chance, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell. Make sure it's switched to all. That really helps us with our analytics and the reach that we have to get out to other guys looking at Coyote swap components or tech. I have the Edelbrock speed drive and supercharger video coming out this week. After that, I'm going to do another video on our Coyote crate engine program and some of the options we have for that. We have the Whipple Gen 5 speed drive coming out next. We're waiting for that blower to show up so we can get some belt fitments, and I'll do a video on that one as well. Also on the Edelbrock listing, if that supercharger is an option for you on your swap, we have dimensional photos on the listing now as well. I added those earlier this week, so you can check that out and see if it's going to fit under your hood from crank centerline. They have new measurements side to side as well. We'll do the same thing for the Whipple Gen 5. And very soon we'll get the updated listing for the VMP blowers as well. Waiting on some information for Roush Gen, whatever they call it now, with the front feed. Get that updated for our speed drives as well. So thank you again. Thanks. No problem for answering the questions as he built for speed. Thanking us. F-150, S550, Bobby Wortman, Terry Scott, 2000 MCR. Thank you guys for posting up. Thank you guys for being here with us. Try to come every week. Even if I'm not answering your questions, you might be able to answer somebody else's questions in the chat if I can't get to them. If I can't get to your question, this video will be on our YouTube channel. You can post up questions down below on any of the stuff we cover in here. You can also email us, info@pbhperformance.com, if you missed the chat or the live broadcast. Thank you everybody for donating in the super chat. It helps us grow the channel, helps us grow the business as well. Alex, thank you for all your support. You're amazing. I love having you around here. I like watching your videos. You're great, man. Thank you for the great tuning as well. So, signing off for the night, guys. Thank you again. Take care of yourselves. Don't get this virus. Don't spread the virus if you can help us do that. And the sooner we do that, the sooner we can get back to doing burnouts, going to events, going to tracks, doing all that stuff, and get things back to the new normal as we move forward. Thanks again for chiming in, guys, on the chat. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.